Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffery Combs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jeffery Combs, President and Founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. It is Tuesday, Facebook Live. Today is the 2-4 Tuesday. It's great to be here with you on a Breathe, Release, and Let Go Tuesday afternoon. No longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. I have a great Facebook Live for you today. It is called The Razor's Edge. The razor's edge is that thin line of the razor, the box-cutting razor, that thin line between fear and faith, between courage and doubt. That's what I'll be covering today in The Razor's Edge. So I'm going to move right into the inspirational portion of today's Facebook Live. I'm on here for 20 minutes today. So I'm going to move right into the higher consciousness of what the razor's edge means. John McFadden, my brother, good to see you this afternoon. You are first on Facebook Live today in beautiful Chicago. Paige, good to see you this afternoon. I'll let a few of you more come on here, then I'm going to start. Content from this book right here, The Map of Consciousness Explained. So John and Paige, if you do not have this book is a very important book to you, because in this book, in chapter 7, is some of the best content. It's called right here, chapter 7, Transcending the Barriers to Higher Consciousness. And the content that I'm going to cover today is going to be a combination of content I've taught myself over 35 years plus of sobriety and 26 years of one-on-one coaching. So the razor's edge is that very fine line. It's like this. It's like that little tiny gap. So it's the space between fear and faith. It's the place between courage and doubt. It's the place between higher consciousness and lower consciousness. And when you're able to step off that razor's edge of anxiety, fear, and doubt, and you're on the razor's edge of courage, you're crossing the bridge where you're no longer in the payoff. The payoff is recreate the same situation over and over to fulfill the feelings that keep you experiencing the experience. If you're addicted to codependency, you will continue to enable, over-obligate, let people take advantage of you. You'll have challenges collecting your money. You'll have challenges with boundaries with your employer. You'll have challenges with boundary with your significant other. You'll have challenges with boundary with your parents. You'll be put in a position to continue to over-obligate, enable, and do more for others than you do for yourself, so that you can feel frustrated, disappointed, out of time, neglected, rejected, abandoned, and overwhelmed. It's a chronic epidemic that affects most of the world. And if you find that self on the razor's edge of codependence, it is your responsibility to really claim your power and to begin to let go of the story that you hold on to. Now, the ego will automatically say, well, I can't quit my job. The ego will automatically say, I can't let go of my parents. The ego will say, I can't let go of this traumatic relationship. The ego will say, I can't live alone. The ego will make up stories. Now, if you go to the post I wrote right before this call, it was a post that I wrote 7-8 years ago, and then I reconstituted the content, I rewrote it, and it is about the fear of failure, which is really the fear of success. And so there's this, I'm not sure if I can quit my job, I'm not sure if I can let go of the relationship, and that's where a large percent of the population lives. And if you're committed to being your best self, you will find a way. So whatever it takes means that you will be and do whatever it takes. But if you tell yourself that I'm too old, I'm too this, and well, look at me, I have gray hair. Look, it's not even gray, it's silver. I'm on memories every single day in Facebook, going back over the content that I started writing in 2009. My hair used to be brown. In my 20s, it was blonder. But at 67 years young, I'm on that edge every single day. I'm on that edge. I live that edge. Now, my edge isn't the edge of addiction. My edge is the edge of recovery. And I still relapse every single day emotionally. I have been addicted to the anger family, which is anger, hate, resentment, get even, plot. I was a plotter. I would plot your demise, my enemies. I would spend hours in my head on how I was going to get even with someone as an addict or even after addiction. So that is retaliation, resentment, revenge, regret. So I've lived in that space Also, envy. I would go to the Amway, or I would go to the Herbalife events earlier in my career, and I would silently sit in the resentment of seeing other people getting awards and walking the stage, and I'd be clapping for them while silently being upset. And so that would be the envy and the jealousy I would have, which is also part of that anger family. And so that edge that I would hold on to would create subluxations in C1 and C2 in the upper cervical, and then I would grind right here, and then I would have TMJ, tension mandibular joint, which would then create migraine headaches. And the migraine headache was a byproduct of the pressure as a junior high school athlete, not being able to perform to a set of standards that were moving targets that I could never perform to. And as I began to have a much deeper understanding of what letting go means, the separation between the feelings and the events that shape them, so that I would not be the mind-body connection to the events that shaped the feelings. Early in my career, I'm fortunate enough to have been introduced to Louise Hay. She wrote the book, You Can Heal Your Life. John Bradshaw, Healing Your Inner Child and Coming Home. Wayne Dyer, Your Erroneous Zones. So I was reading this content in the late 80s. Some of you weren't even born then, but in the late 80s, I began reading this content and practicing the 12-step programs of recovery. I entered as an atheist and then became a Christian, accepted Christ as my Savior in 1994, and began to practice a different level of praying and spirituality. And that also gave me a lot of relief and peace, but I still lived on that edge. And so it was 10 years into recovery, 10 years into business, that I was able to let go of that, begin the process of letting go of that edge. And so that edge also created sensitivity and defensiveness. And in my anger, I'd want to fight and take it out on someone else. And I would take it out on my own body in exercise. So I would try and exercise my angst away. Well, I would play racquetball for 2 hours a day. I ran 3 miles. I lifted. I was in the best shape of my life. I had an 8-pack, but I was still broke. And so I was still broke and still broken. So it was a 10-year process for me in recovery to really start to understand how to refine that edge. And a major breakthrough happened for me when one of my uplines told me in a direct sales business, he said, "Jeff, you're too edgy. You alienate too many people. You're too confrontational. You're not a good leader. You're too in people's face." And he said, "Practice relaxed intensity." I'd never heard those two words. I've been accused of being intense. As an athlete, I was extremely intense. I was an honorable mention all-state athlete in 3 sports, and should have only played 1 or 2 sports where I could have been all-state in 1 or 2 sports. Instead, I was spread too thin and never could really reach my potential. See, that was another situation that was happening to me in my recovery. I couldn't reach my potential. That was a lingering story that I was holding on to. Breakthrough began to happen I started to transcend in breakthroughs. I started to listen to Frederick Lehrman's content in 1996, an audio cassette program called Prosperity Consciousness. I'd been studying the great Jim Rohn all through the 90s. I was listening to The Art of Exceptional Living, a 6-cassette audio series that I listened to. I read Jim Rohn. I listened to him. I followed him. He was an Herbalife speaker. I started to follow Burke Hedges, who sold the American Dream. I read a lot of the Amway content. I came across Larry Angini's book called Purpose Driven. I was consuming all this content. I was going to Barnes & Noble every Friday and Saturday night, but I still had that edgy edge. Now, if you're on that edge today, the edge either will take you to anger or apathy. So that's the duality of the edge you live on. You're either at the bottom of the scale of consciousness in your anxiety, fear, doubt, or at the top of it of anxiety, fear, and doubt, which is the anger family. That's where I lived. And regardless of where you live, the purpose of today's Facebook Live is to assist you to understand what it means to let go of the payoff. The payoff is the razor's edge. The payoff is recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings, which leads to under-earning, underachieving, avoiding success, avoiding failure, recreating the same situation, creating a similar story to fulfill the same feelings. In 26 years of coaching, one of the most challenging aspects of coaching is assisting people to understand that their emotional addictions, the repressed feelings, and the trauma that they hold on to creates a story that creates a payoff. It is the most challenging aspect of my coaching that I have witnessed people understanding, because the ego goes, well, that's crazy. That's stupid. That doesn't make sense. Why would I sabotage myself? You will sabotage yourself to fulfill the neurochemical craving of being disappointed because you're not good enough. When you begin to surrender, when you begin to let go, when you begin to access higher consciousness, when you begin to let go of the trauma bonds that you hold on to, when you let go of your low self-esteem, when you let go of the stories you tell yourself about your family, when you let go of making excuses up for other people, when you become rigorously honest with self, and you begin surrendering, and you let go of the talk that leads you to cheating. When you're sober emotionally, there are no cheat days. I mean, you don't have snacks and treats. You don't have a nip in the closet. You don't grab the vape pipe when it's handy. You don't go and have a cigar in the cigar lounge because it's convenient and your friends and homies are going there. When you are committed to your recovery, when you're committed to your sobriety, when you're committed to higher consciousness, when you're committed to your success, you are different than other people. I mean, it really requires this. You're not a freak. You're not an outcast. You're sober. And when you choose that, you are in the law of the few. And because there's so many people in the world, there's a high law of the few. There's many people looking for what you have. And there's many people that you can access and find. But when you live in this shut down, emotionally unavailable state, telling yourself stories, holding on to the same set of circumstances, and then you go out to find a business or prospect for customers and clients, and you go out there in a mixed message where you're going to attract your reality, the same situation to fulfill your same feelings. When you have been a noble struggler your whole life, waving that flag, the noble struggler's flag, when you wave that flag and you're a noble struggler and you're holding on to the pride of struggle, and when you let go of pride is that emotion that many people hold on to because they're too proud to surrender. They're too proud to let go of their addiction. They're too proud to let go of their sweets. They're too proud to let go of their vape. They're too proud to let go of their vices. They're too proud to let go of rescuing people. I mean, people ask me some of the most bizarre questions because, I mean, I've heard it for so many years, this question over and over. How do I? How do I? It's like a string on the neck. How do I? How do I? I mean, this is the most common. It's not how do you, it's why do you? When will you surrender? When will you let go? Surrendering is not the white flag. Surrendering is the ego. It's the lower self. Surrendering is surrendering to God. It's surrendering to your higher power. It's surrendering to your ego. It's letting go of struggle. It's letting go of frustration. It's letting go of disappointment. And these words do not count anymore. Yeah, but. Yet, I've asked people before in coaching, I said, do your best to not yeah, but me one more time this hour. I'll try. Yeah, but you don't understand how difficult it is. I mean, that happens frequently. This book right here is gold. The Map of Consciousness Explained. This is your handbook to higher consciousness. This is a book, all Hawkins content. These are books by David Hawkins you read for the rest of your life. They're complex. They're different. They're unique. They're deep. It takes a higher level of consciousness to even understand the map of consciousness. So that means if you're in your head, I'll wave goodbye. You cannot let go by processing, thinking, analyzing, overanalyzing. You can't live in the analytical egoic mind. You have to let go of validating, justifying, excuses, and most importantly, yeah, but. You're not the only person that it's difficult to be and stay sober. You're not the only person who struggles when it comes to being successful. The world is filled with struggleaholics. It's your responsibility to volunteer to not be one of them anymore. The LOF, the law of the few. I was coaching one of my long-term clients today who's a 7-figure income earner in the real estate industry, and I asked him, how many people do you have in your organization that achieve $250,000 in a calendar year? Here's what he told me. 3. He has 3 people. He's been in his company for 14 years. He makes $1.4 million a year. He's been in his company for 14 years. He's been in the industry for 17 years. He's 40 years old. It means he started right out of University of Florida at Jacksonville, and he went right into the insurance industry with a company called with WFG, World Financial Group. That was his first shot at the title, and he learned his basic skills there and then went on to be a top-tier real estate professional, insurance professional. Now, if you're in real estate, insurance, network marketing, direct sales, you own your own business, you're a sales professional, this content is applicable. If you're in recovery, sobriety, accessing consciousness, all this content is applicable for you today. What the content is for is to understand the razor's edge. The razor's edge is that 1/10 of a second that you can be in sobriety or you can be an addict. It's the 1/10 of a second you can be in consciousness or you can be in doubt. Doubt is the deterrent to most of your successes. I doubt that I can do a 1-day cleanse. I doubt that I can fast for 9 days. I doubt that I can prospect this afternoon. Someone said to me earlier today, of course, that first phone call is the most difficult. And I said, why is the first phone call the most difficult? I said, why is it difficult to begin? Nothing's difficult unless that's your story. If your story's difficult, then you're going to be a heartaholic before you even start. You're going to set yourself up for disappointment. When you are so done with this, when you have reached a place where the pleasure isn't worth the pain, when you have reached a place that I can no longer do this, when you have reached a place where I deserve success, when you have reached a place where you will no longer tolerate narcissistic behavior, when you have reached a place where I'm just so, I can't do this anymore, congratulations, because you've reached a place where the pleasure is worth the pain. You're now on the other side of that razor. It's the side called courage. Courage is the quality that never goes out of fashion. It's always available to you. And the more that you begin to access that courage when you require it, you can be and stay in higher consciousness. When you let go of your trauma bonds and struggle, when you let go of the story about failing, when you let go of your mouth moving and you're worried about the outcome that doesn't happen, when you let go of what other people are going to think of you, when you let go of what you think of yourself and begin to love yourself and actually understand what that means, when you're able to let go of being critical of yourself, you can be honest without being critical, when you can admit your character defects, when you can take a moral inventory of yourself, when you can practice acceptance, forgiveness, you're on the other side of the razor's edge. When you can let go of trying to control the outcome that hasn't happened, congratulations. You're practicing higher consciousness. When you can live in the now and know that you're good enough, congratulations. You're in higher consciousness. When you can breathe, release, and let go, you're in the separation. It's the breath that lets you separate your feelings from the neurons that wire and fire that form the feelings that create fight or flight. Fight or flight is the razor's edge that you begin to separate yourself from. Fight or flight is the autonomic reaction to stimulus. And that there's a fine line between that razor's edge of fight or flight or courage. And as you begin to have that understanding of the razor's edge of fight or flight, it's an automatic reaction. When you can respond to the stimulus, respondability, you're on the other side of the razor's edge. It's a very fine line right here. When you're able to step into your power, you're no longer in force. When you try to force yourself to do something that you have a story about, you try to force yourself to do something that you perceive pain, you will continue to avoid and or sabotage yourself to fulfill the neurochemical craving of being emotionally addicted to disappointment. That is your payoff. My name is Jeffery Combs. I am the president and founder of Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. Breathe, release, and let go. It's exceptional to see all of you here today. Denise Dory, long-time client to go. Good to see you, Denise. Michelle, John, Paige, Sean, Valerie, Alicia, Jerron, Jeff Avia, good to see you. David Harris, Michael Gershon, John McFadden, good to see all of you here this afternoon. This Facebook Live is officially recorded, available for playback as soon as I hit the button. Thank you very much. And if you are not my friend on Facebook, go ahead and send me a friend request. I would be honored to accept. Breathe, release, and let go.